designed to encourage, empower, and educate real estate professionals by sharing best practices from business leaders that are proven winners. I'm your host, Kyle Malnati, and this is Calibrate Real Estate. Broadcasting from the Mile High City, thank you for tuning in to the Calibrate Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Malnati, and this is the podcast designed for real estate professionals where we encourage, empower, and educate you. Today, my special guest is a good friend, Ashley Deach Schaefer. Say hi, Ashley.
Hey, everyone.
And you may be tuning in on YouTube, and you can see our smiling faces as we're waving to you. But also, you could be on iTunes, and we just appreciate your download, whatever medium you're on. Please leave a review. And without further ado, we're going to get this next episode of our podcast kicked off. Ashley, so you're going to be on a panel in a few weeks here in Denver, my hometown.
Yes.
And I'm super excited about that. We're going to be talking about what it's like to be a working mom. Now, there's a lot of working parents in the workforce, but I think, in the last 30 years, the presence of mothers in the workforce has really become a thing that's going to stay, which is great. And I think as a realtor, we've got this crazy industry where people expect us to be on the phone I was negotiating an inspection, at 9 o'clock, or not an inspection, a contract at 9 o'clock the other night. And you're waking up early and you're doing all these different things. And so, it's just a crazy industry. So I want to highlight the working moms out there that are doing it. You've got a son, Nixon, and your husband, Jordan, and your son is just a few months old, right?
Yeah, he's 5 months old. We are so excited to be in Denver. First of all, I've never been, so I'm stoked to visit. We're bringing Nixon, we're bringing Jordan, we're bringing the nanny because I know I need the help. So I'm not a stranger to that. But yeah, he'll be 5 months in about a week. So I kind of laughed to myself. Being a working mom is very new to me. So I think I have obviously a lot to learn myself, but I'm honored to talk about it.
Well, and the panel that you're on is being moderated and hosted by Amanda DeVito-Parle, who's what we call a seasoned mom, right? She's got 3 kiddos that range in age from, real little to elementary school age. And we wanted to have moms at several different spots in their career. So this is a conference that's being hosted by our 30 Under 30 alumni network. And what we've got some moms like yourself that are brand new, and you're like, man, what can I do to share advice? But you're in the thick of it right now. You're struggling, and not to say that you're struggling every day, but one of the things we were talking about right before we got live on our podcast was that you're having a difficult time with your son sleeping. So let's talk about that and how you deal with that process, because it's real difficult to operate at your highest potential at work when you can't get sleep.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, you're not kidding. I was laughing yesterday. I had an event, and before, when I was pregnant, everyone gives you advice. And this gentleman who had just had a baby, we were at an event together, and he's like, Ash, I'm telling you, you don't sleep. And I was like, okay, yeah, I've heard that before. And then yesterday I'm like, he was not kidding. I legitimately have not slept. And it's so hard because I love my son. I'm obsessed with my son. But right, we have jobs to do. And I'm so proud to be a working mom. I'm so proud to be a business owner. And gosh, you just got to make it work. So it's okay. And I'm learning every day how to function on just less sleep. And I really rely on other moms, other people in my industry to pick me up and say, hey, it's okay. We can do this today. Or, you know what, Ash, today's not your day. Take a break. I'm feeling that it's not working out. But it's so rewarding knowing that I can be where my son needs me to be, and be where my husband needs me to be, and be where my business needs me to be. And I can make it all work. So I'm learning.
Well, and I think that's a really important theme, is that we're all constantly learning, and without trying to sound trite or cliche, this is a journey. It's a learning experience, and you might be really experienced as a realtor, but not all that experienced as a mom. And so I think it's really smart to take that lesson and say, if you're new into real estate, you need to rely on mentors. You need to rely on people that have been there, done that. And
Absolutely.
you were a successful team leader for a while at Keller Williams.
Yep.
You branded your team with Hello Homes Grand Rapids in Michigan. And now you're the broker owner of a boutique company. So let's talk a little bit about that journey. How and why did you start a career in real estate? And then talk about the evolution of Hello Homes Grand Rapids, which has one of the most beautiful websites, by the way. So go check out Hello Homes Grand Rapids.
Thank you. Yeah. I think like most people, I sort of fell into real estate. I never had dreams of being a realtor. No one in my family is a realtor. I didn't have any background in it. I literally knew nothing. I'd never bought a house. So the story goes, I was at a party and a mutual friend, a friend of a friend was there, and she was kind of complaining about her job. And she was like, man, I'm really busy. I need help. We need to hire someone. And I asked her, well, what do you do? She said, I work for a realtor. So she was an admin at the time. And at the time I was finishing a temporary position. I used to work for a national charter school company that I knew there was a deadline for it. And so I started inquiring about the position. What do you need? She said, hey, I need someone to answer phones, write contracts. I said, well, I can do that. So I interviewed and got the job. And I was really hesitant actually to becoming a realtor because they were working crazy hours, and I could see why she was stressed because she had a lot going on. And she was also a new mom. She had just had her first baby. So I said, yeah, no, I'm good. I'm good getting my paycheck. I'm good leaving at 5. I don't need that. But then, of course, I started seeing their paychecks roll in, and I thought, okay, I better rethink this. I want that kind of cash. So, so I got my license and, never looked back. So that was in 2011 that I got my license. The market was terrible. Nothing was selling. But we were starting the upturn, we were starting to get better. And I feel really grateful for getting in at that time because I was able to take the time to really learn what this business was about. And I think if you can succeed in a down market, when things just are not good, then you can probably be successful. So I feel really grateful that that's when I got in, because frankly, agents that are getting in now are probably really freaked out. So I'm glad to be on the other end of it. But in any case, got my license, and I was with a particular team for 6 years. And I started as admin, and I worked my way up to the top agent for that team. And I had a small team of my own within that team, decided that it was time to go on our own. So we went to Keller Williams, and Keller is a great company. All I can say is it just wasn't for me. I really enjoyed doing my own thing. And after a not very long time, about a year, I realized I should do my own thing. So there's actually a little bit of time in between there where I was with what I call a silent broker. I didn't have my broker's license yet, so I had another person be my broker under Hello Homes. And as timing would have it, I officially opened Hello Homes GR as the sole broker owner on November 1st of 2017. And then literally 3 days later, on November 4th, had my son. I would not recommend anyone doing that ever. That was a really wild week. So I got it all out of the way. And then of course I went on maternity leave. So I opened a brokerage, had a kid, came back a few months later. And it's been really great.
Oh man. So we have such similar stories, and the way we became friends is we're both recipients of this great honor called 30 Under 30, which is being recognized annually in Realtor magazine. And so that's not really the point. The point is that when you're recognized on a national level, you do so because of your story. And so it's important to share that you started off on the bottom rung of the ladder. I did the same thing. I was an admin for a couple of years. I got my degree in finance. I was really interested in real estate, but I didn't know how to sell. I didn't know a thing about the Denver real estate community. And I was like, I'm going to learn. I'm going to learn from someone who is really, really smart, is a few years older than me. And I had an amazing mentor in Denver named Matt Ritter. And Matt is a 30 Under 30 also. It was in 2005. And I just got, I got this amazing blessing to learn from someone who was willing to teach. And I think that's really important, that as you're climbing that real estate ladder, you had people along the way that were willing to mentor you and teach you. And now you're that person. Absolutely. And so I think it's really, really interesting to just kind of see that whole evolution. And I've got teammates of mine that are doing the same thing, and I'm really excited for them. And I tell them, my job at Calibrate Real Estate here in Denver is to create opportunities with room for growth. Because if I feel like you've got a ceiling here, if you feel like that, they're going to want to leave. And so I think that's really important as you're leading a group of people and as you're stepping onto a team if you're someone that's new.
Yeah, exactly. I think that I've been able to shape my company based on, the roles that I've played in other brokerages and other companies. So I know how important that admin role is, or the marketing role, or the buyer's agent, or whatever that is. I can really place a value on it because I've been that person. I knew what I wanted and what I didn't want. So I know maybe how to better ask those questions just based on the experience.
Yeah, it's really neat. And I think what happens is you have empathy for everyone in your own company because you've, at some point in your career, you've played that role.
Absolutely.
Speaking of empathy, our careers, while successful, especially being recognized on a national level, all have struggles. And there are all these different setbacks and failures and things along the way that could deter you from wanting to keep going on. And so when you grow up in an industry, you realize that each success is really kind of standing on this mountain of failure. You have succeeded despite these setbacks. And so we've all had adversity. I've had my fair share of adversity, and not all of it is work related. Sometimes it's personal. And your husband, Jordan, when you were dating, really was battling the scare of his life, I'm sure, with this serious disease. And so talk about that as well as the community around you. You've blogged about it, and I'd love to hear your story personally.
Of course. I think when someone goes through something really hard, at least for me, my initial thought is, how does my job relate to this? You don't really think about that. But what we went through really does relate to real estate. And I feel really grateful for that. So my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time, literally, honest to God, woke up one day and there was a huge lump sticking out of his left humerus bone. And looking back, this is really silly, but we had started working out like every day for, like a month. And he's like, oh, this must be like from working out. And we're like, well, that's really weird. So, of course, come to find out it wasn't. After many tests, it was confirmed that he had what's called Ewing sarcoma. So sarcoma is a bone tissue cancer. It's very rare, typically found in a pediatric age. So very uncommon over the age of 18, even up to 18 is not common. At the time he was like 24. So he was way outside where most patients would have this type of cancer. So he had treatments every other week for a week. And we had to go to the University of Michigan, which, we're in the state of Michigan, which is great, but we live on the opposite side of the state from U of M. So typically you would treat it at your local hospital, but because his case was so rare, we had to travel across the state every other week. So that takes time, that takes money. Thankfully, my older sister actually worked for the University of Michigan. So that's just like how the universe works, right? So we were able to stay with her. So that was really helpful. But he had treatments for 9 months and he was on chemo every other week. The whole thing, lost his hair, lost a ton of weight. We went through major depression struggles. We went through a lot, and we'd only been dating for three years. We knew that we loved each other. We knew we were probably going to get married, but we weren't there yet. So we grew up real fast, having to go through that. And what I was so grateful for, going through something that's as difficult as that, because the reality is, you don't know if he's going to live. You don't know what your future looks like. And you really live day by day at that point. Being in this industry was so helpful because I don't have a 9 to 5. I don't have to clock in. So I knew that I could take a week off and go spend time with him and be with him where I needed to be. And I could tell my clients, I was really transparent with them. So I'd say, hey, I'm in the hospital with Jordan this week. So-and-so from my team or my company is going to meet you at this house. And I'm going to be here when you need me if we got to write a contract or if we've got to negotiate this. And I was able to make time the way that I needed to. I don't think I lost any money from it. Clients were really understanding and they said, absolutely, you got to do what you got to do. And that's just how that works in our industry. So that was so grateful. I was so grateful for that. And perhaps it's just my local market, although I don't think so. I think it's probably everywhere. Realtor is my community, and other affiliate members, people in title and mortgage, literally always had a hand up. How can I help? What can I do to help you? What can I do to help your clients? You know, they really stepped up, and I felt so confident knowing that I could continue to run my business and be with Jordan and be on the other side of the state and really still work. So, I mean, man, what a blessing that was. And obviously we're married now with a child. So happy to report that he just had his 5-year cancer-free checkup. So he is in the clear, and we just could not be more grateful for that.
Yay. That is
Yes.
so amazing.
Yeah, it really is.
To really see that full perspective of how things have progressed along. And
yeah,
gosh, just a heart-wrenching, just gut-wrenching experience, I can imagine. And to sort of, probably for you, I can imagine, feel a little bit helpless throughout that process, because
absolutely
not you fighting, it's him, and seeing someone you love really in pain, and it'd be very difficult.
Yeah, you're never prepared. You really aren't. And you know, like I said, we grew up really fast. When you're 24, you kind of have different priorities than, you know, than we wanted to at the time. So, we really learned a lot about each other. And that's even when we realized, like, okay, real estate is the career for me. This is how I know that this is what I want to do, because I've been able to go through something like this and still have a successful business on the other end. And hey, I love you. We should get married. We've been through a lot. So our future looked much brighter, you know, when we were done with that. So absolutely, you're never prepared for it. And we're just so grateful for, it sounds weird, but for that experience, because it taught us so much.
It's weird. When you have experiences like that, I completely agree. And the story that I can share just briefly, and it's not about me, but it's about adversity. Just a couple of days ago, our 7-year-old twins had their birthday. So you naturally reflect, and you've got a little guy who hasn't had a birthday yet, but each month he gets a month older. I'm sure you're thinking about Nixon as he's progressing along. But when you have these birthdays, kids are these little walking time capsules, and it's just kind of, you were stuck in this moment in time when they were born, and you remember it. Same thing with Jordan's cancer. You kind of remember everything. You go right back to that. So in 2011, I was sharing this with my team at our all hands on deck meeting this week, where I said, you know, hey, 2011 was the year my twins were born. Courtney and I were in a really, really interesting spot, because we had already had a 16-month-old daughter. So my friends like to call it Irish triplets.
Right.
We had 3 kids under the age of 2, 3 kids under the age of 18 months. So, I mean, it's just nuts. So imagine getting pregnant with twins in 1 month is basically what that would be like for you.
Wow.
So what happened though is we had some real struggles getting pregnant. So felt like this was a huge blessing. It's March of 2011. I'm in the midst of actually considering leaving my mentor, which was really, really difficult. I was being recruited by another firm that I ended up working at for 5 years and was a partner. And one fateful day in May, I get a phone call from my brother on the East Coast, and found out that our brother, who was 2 years younger than him, 4 years younger than me, had died unexpectedly. And he was 24 years old. And just, you hear that type of news, and your world just becomes unglued. What ends up happening through that process of seeing your parents kind of like walking zombies for a year, having all of your family come in, and you're just kind of like numb. And at the same time, you have 2 little children who are under the age of, at this time, they were 3 months old when he died. You just I just don't remember a lot of what was going on, but you just find a way to persevere through it. And that year, while it was one of the worst years of my life, just from a exhaustion and fatigue standpoint, and feeling as low as it could get, ended up being a springboard in my career. The next year was the year I was recognized as 30 under 30. And a lot of it was sharing that story of adversity while still maintaining a certain level of productivity. But I was really running out of gas by the end of that year. And it was difficult trying to start a new business with this new company. Having left my mentors, my wife Courtney had stopped working at that point, obviously, because daycare was going to evaporate her salary.
Right.
You look at it and you're like, how in the world do you persevere through that? But you find a way. You just don't quit. You just keep taking a step at a time. And
exactly.
It's crazy. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing your
Well,
story.
no, thank you for sharing, because the reality is I mean, people go through this every single day. So how can we empathize with each other and relate to each other and know that, hey, I've been there and I can help you. And here's how you can help me too. So that, I love that.
So a question I have for you, and we just both did this, being vulnerable and being
Yeah.
authentic, especially someone that's been real successful. How do you feel like that it's ever backfired on you? You had mentioned you didn't think you lost any money throughout sharing that with your clients, but do you feel like that ever backfired on you, being that open and transparent?
Honestly, I can honestly say no, I don't think it has. And if it has, and I just haven't noticed, I'm okay with that too. If
Right.
being vulnerable and being genuine doesn't jive with someone else, that's cool. I'm just not the person for them. So I don't mind. I'm certainly not going to sweat it. But I can honestly say no. I think that, at least in my life, let's say I'm going to go buy a car, I'm going to go buy something. If I feel like that person is genuine with me, I'm definitely going to have a better relationship with them than someone who's just all about the sales, or, not trying to connect with me on a better level. So I can honestly say no, I don't think it's affected me negatively.
Well, and I think that what's really interesting just about our entire discussion is this is all about struggle and adversity. And I think the more transparent you can be, the more people actually reach out to you. And you said that the community was totally for trying to help you out. So now fast forward back to today, you're a mom, and this is a big struggle. You've got a little boy who doesn't really have his sleep patterns figured out yet. There are times I'm sure he gets sick and you're worried, like, what's going to happen? All of this is new. And so, I have to think that this has been a real exercise in time management. It's also been an exercise in kind of managing your mentality. So what do you do to set your day right? What are some of the immovable things that you have to do to make sure that you can be successful now that you've got this extra level of responsibility? And how do you start your day?
Yeah, I'm definitely still learning, because with a 5-month-old, my day starts at all different times. So I'm like, what time is it now? But there's a few things that I do that I think help me. First of all, I do have a business coach, which is crucial, right? We have to have someone else to talk to. And literally just an hour before I talked to you, Kyle, we talked more about time blocking. I've got to get much better at that. So I have a schedule for my day. And, of course, before that schedule starts, I make sure I know what my day looks like. What do I need to be prepared for? Who am I meeting? Am I ready for those meetings? Making sure that I'm prepared. That is key. So taking the time to really go through my schedule. In the morning, I allow myself some time to just kind of hang out, actually. If my husband and I are getting ready at the same time, and now especially with our son, we just chat. Hey, what's your day look like? What's on, your schedule? Do you want to get lunch? Do you have a minute? What are you nervous about? What are you excited about? So just kind of, I don't want to say pumping each other up, but giving each other maybe some good vibes for the day. We're really into music. We've traveled around the world to see our favorite bands, pre-baby. So we like to just play our favorite music in the morning, a new band every day, just kind of really get in a good mindset. I'd love to get back into working out. I'm not a morning person, so I'm not even going to attempt to say that I go to the gym in the morning, but, some people just need that time to get their mind right. So that's kind of how I do that. Just making sure that I'm setting myself up to think positively, to really attack the day with whatever I've got on my schedule, and truthfully, to allow myself some grace. It's not going to go perfect. So I allow myself to think, hey, it's okay if something screws up today. You get another chance at it tomorrow. So really giving myself some time to be flexible.
I think that's great advice. And Amanda DeVito Parle, who's moderating your panel, she loves to talk about life for her, BC, which is before children,
Right.
how it's so different than life now. And she's got 3 little
Yeah.
ones. And the workouts are probably the biggest thing that's a struggle. And a struggle for all of us, because it's one of those things where you say, and Stephen Covey put this in quadrant 2 of 7 habits of highly effective people, where it's important but not urgent, and those important but not urgent things will sneak up and get you at some point, because if you don't lead a healthy lifestyle, if you don't work out, at some point, you're going to have lots of time to recover when you're in the hospital, because
right.
an attack or a heart attack or whatever. And so,
Yeah.
so it is one of those things that you will find time, and your kids get bigger and you find time to do that. I remember walking on the treadmill, and I'm sure that this is like totally not safe. And I'm embarrassed to say, with the baby Bjorn and walking at a slow speed, just because I'm like, I got to get some sort of work while my wife is sleeping and just doing different things. So, so yeah, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And my next question is, how do you fit it all in? You were talking about time blocking, but my wife, Courtney, absolutely loves this author named Jen Hatmaker. I'm sure you've heard of Jen.
Yep. Just saw Jen here. Yeah.
Oh, you did? Awesome.
Yeah.
She's phenomenal.
She's so great. Yeah. Love her.
Jen talks about life as a balancing act. And this Working Moms panel is all about burnout and how do you balance things. And so Jen speaks of that as like thinking of a gymnastic balance beam and what's on the beam versus what's off the beam. And so my wife, Courtney, and I spoke yesterday just about an obligation of ours. It's a monthly obligation. And we just said, last night, we're just not going to do it. We'll do it next month. It's an activity with our son's school. And we just said, hey, look, it's just not going to happen this month. Right. So what are some of the things that you make sure that you fit in real intentionally, those big rocks that have to fit in your schedule?
Yeah. Well, I think you just hit the nail on the head. I don't know that it's fitting it in so much, but taking things out, being okay with saying no. I'll get stuff done that I want to get done. That's not hard to do because I want to do it. But it's the stuff that I'm like, man, I'm not looking forward to this. Or, you know what? I wish this was tomorrow. Can I do this tomorrow? And like I said, really allowing myself the grace to say, it's okay to say no. Or, I'm not going to benefit from doing this very minute. Can I adjust my schedule just a little bit to make it work? So, honestly, I'm pretty selfish with my time. If I've got something that's important to me or important to a client or important to my husband or whatever, absolutely that's priority. And I fit that in. But yeah, if it's something that, I need to say no to, I've gotten pretty good at just saying no. It's just not going to work. And I don't feel bad about it.
A good piece of advice, you mentioned coaching a little bit ago. Good piece of advice that I just got from my coach is that while most of our clients will excuse us to be with family, and that's one of the easiest excuses to use of, hey, I'm with my family right now, or I'm traveling, or I'm doing something. People say, okay, I totally get that. It's often one of the easiest areas for us to abuse as high producing realtors and just high producing professionals, is that it seems like family is one of the easiest to let things slide in. And so I think it's a real battle. You really have to commit to it. And I love your idea of taking things out instead of trying to jam everything in there.
Right.
I love that.
Just can't be done. So yeah, totally. I prioritize, and every day is different, but I can't think of a time where I've laid my head at night and thought, man, I just didn't get everything done today. Of course you have those feelings, but I honestly think that at the end of the day, I've accomplished what I was meant to accomplish, and tomorrow's a new day.
All right. So you are a leader. You're a leader in your household. You are a leader in the real estate community, and you're a leader in your real estate brokerage. So how do you've made mistakes, you've had things that have not gone well, but as a leader, how do you help others around you kind of learn through failure? And I find that is one of the hardest things as a leader is to really see someone else struggling. I remember it, I remember it as an admin. I remember it as a junior broker, as a buyer's agent, but I almost want to just kind of help someone succeed instead of maybe have them deal with falling down and having to pick themselves back up. So how do you do that as a leader?
Well, I mean, it's really tough, right? So let's be honest, there's a lot of different ways to do it. When I started my real estate career, there was like zero tolerance. If I failed, it was like, oh, too bad, you failed. That's on you. No one really helped me up. But also, while I didn't realize it at the time, that was really creating the foundation for me to say, okay, you fall down, you get back up. So same thing. I want to always extend a hand, and I want to say, here, let me help you up. But sometimes I realize that there's a fine line with that. Some people need to learn how to do that on their own. I am very vocal with my team about tell me when you're in the weeds, tell me when you're struggling, and I will do what I need to do, but we have to do it together. This is not only my job. So I think that there has to be some responsibility on both ends. And I think just being vocal about saying, hey, I'm struggling. I'm really having a hard time with this, because also, even just growing up and in my career, I didn't see that a lot. I didn't see a lot of people raising their hand and saying, I'm having a hard time with this. So I think that as a leader, that helps me maybe be a little bit more relatable and say, guys, I got to tell you, I'm really struggling with this. I need some help here. And then that allows other people the opportunity to be vulnerable and say, man, thanks for saying that, because you know what, I'm struggling here and I need help here. And then we can all kind of vocalize and you don't feel so isolated. I think that's the problem with failure, is for some odd reason, people think they're the only ones that fail, which is so not true, but it's kind of a weird thing to talk about. So for me, it's being vocal about it. It's giving other people the opportunity to do that and really seeing how you bounce back from that. There's no right or wrong way, but just doing it, you have to bounce back. You can't just sit there. So that's kind of the way I think about that.
It's such a great lesson that you're going to have setbacks. Everyone does. Yeah. And it's not so much about what the setback is, but it's how you're going to overcome that, how Absolutely. You're going to work through it. And there's a band of brothers and sisters around you that want to help you. And I think there's a lot of encouragement. Which is one of the reasons why I started this podcast, is to help people understand that you're not the only one. A lot of times real estate brokerage, specifically in the real estate profession, can feel like it's a really lonely industry and that you're the only one out there working on a Saturday night, really hustling to try to get that home for a buyer, or, really, really working early or late or whatever it is. And there's a lot of us out there that are doing that.
Absolutely. And especially with social media, I mean, I have a love-hate with it because, at least on my news feed, you see people all the time, sold this house, got this one under contract, and they're so, I don't know how else to say it, but boastful. And sometimes I have to sit back and think, man, I don't know, if you really were that busy, you just wouldn't have time to post all that. So I don't know what to think. And so that's what kind of where I think of that. Like, I really like to stay in my lane. I like to do what I do best. I don't brag about it. I don't talk about it with everybody. My shtick, I'm not at the closing table with the big sold sign. That's just not me. I don't talk about it. And a good friend of ours, Krista Clark, I remember her telling me once, everyone knows she's a realtor, but it's not because she says she's a realtor. It's because she doodles. It's because she talks about other things. And then it's top of mind stuff that says, oh, Krista, she does this and she does this. And so I think about that in my own business. Ashley, she sells real estate and she's a mom and she has fun and she likes music. So, how can we kind of encompass all of our moving parts into one? So, yeah.
I love that. Yeah. And it's funny. You see someone where what the statistics are of that particular person's production. You're like, man, they're all over the place. And it's social media is the highlight reel, right? It's the brag rag. And I've got this book that I've read several times and I really, really enjoy it. It's called Love Your Life, Not Theirs. And it's by an author named Rachel Cruz. And it's all about contentment. And that's a difficult exercise, right? With social media. And I think we talked about authenticity earlier. You got to be authentic to yourself. And I think people see that from a mile away, right? If Absolutely. You're someone that has, you would never run into a meeting and say, just sold something.
Right.
Or back in the day before social media, wave all these photos around to everybody. No, you would have a conversation with someone and you'd lead up to that and they'd say, hey, how are you doing? And you'd have this conversation. You say, oh, things are going great. I just did this or just did that, but it would be natural. It's not like, blah, right at you.
Exactly. Right.
So I think that real estate's a wonderful career. We've been fortunate to have some national accolades at a young age. I've got to imagine you've had a lot of really impactful experiences, a lot of memories, a lot of things that you felt like, gosh, I've just hit the top right here. So what do you think maybe your one or two most memorable things that have happened to you in real estate? And I know it's a loaded question, but what do you think stands out for you?
It really is. Obviously, winning the 30 Under 30 award was a huge achievement. I applied and kind of on a whim, I thought, not on a whim that I applied, but I thought, well, I don't know if I'm going to get this. I'm just going to apply. There's thousands of realtors applying for this. And I had studied a few years prior, every year leading up to the year I won. So I kind of knew what it took. But, you know, of course, that was a huge achievement for me. Truthfully, maybe this sounds a little, I don't know, selfish, but opening my own brokerage, I would say, has been the highlight. To be a woman business owner is a huge honor for me, to empower other women to do the same, and to seriously just be a leader for women in our industry and in my community gives me just incredible joy. I'm so, so grateful for the road that real estate has given me. It's not, you know, like Lee Brown says, not just houses. Houses is like a really small piece of what we do. Truly empowering other people, and my road happens to be for women, but of course I'd want that to be anybody. So having the ability to be a leader and to do that through real estate has been just a huge joy. So that for me has been definitely the highlight of my career.
Well, and your brokerage is, I mean, it's just been really easy, right, to operate it.
Oh yeah. It's like a breeze.
Totally. You know, not only is it the best experience, but it's the easiest thing ever. Everyone
So
should do it, right?
Yeah. Well, and that's the other thing. I have, you know, aside from real estate, a very small business background. So again, it's really taught me how to run a successful business. Thankfully, without the 4-year degree loan. So that's been great. But no, that's been incredibly rewarding.
All right. So my favorite question to end the show is this idea of Dear Younger Me. It's a presentation I've done. It's a great Christian song that I love to listen to. And it really distills down that advice that you wish you knew when you were 22. So we're both no longer 22. But at the same time, but at the same time, we work with folks that are that age. And once you've been around for at least a decade in the industry, you have some wisdom to impart. And it sounds kind of funny at times to think that way. But what advice would you give to someone that is trying to get into the industry, or someone that feels like they're struggling and you have a chance to maybe coach them, or just give them some encouragement right now? What advice would you give, and how would you encourage someone?
I think the two things that were helpful for me that I wish I would have known were get involved right away. Raise your hand. What committees can you be a part of? Who can you meet? It's all about who you know all the time. So who can you know? That has been huge, crucial for my business. And, you know, I went to a happy hour once here around town. I met this gentleman. He happened to be the state president the next year. And then all of a sudden I'm on all these state committees and I'm on national committees, and he had a huge pull, and I was embarrassed. I didn't even know who he was. But I kind of stuck my neck out there and I said, I'm looking to get involved. How can I do that? So I think that's my first thing, is be willing to stick your neck out there. And it's kind of intimidating. You walk into a room full of people you don't know, but then all of a sudden the next month they're all your best friends. And so that's kind of cool. And I think that the other thing is allow yourself some grace and be vulnerable. So for me, I was really willing to say, if I wrote an offer and I was sending it to someone, I'd say, hey, just so you know, I just got my license and I'd love any help that you're willing to give me. I want to learn and I want to make this offer work. So what can I do? Tell me. I'm a sponge. And I think that, again, with social media, again, kind of in this busy market, we see people sort of puffing their chest a little and say, no, I know what I'm doing. And for me, that doesn't work. I'd rather have someone say, Ash, I need some help here. I'm going to write this offer. Help me out. I'm new. And I respond to that a lot easier. So for me, it's just, be yourself and allow yourself to mess up and get it right the next time.
Yeah, that whole fake it till you make it type of attitude, it only hurts the person that's faking it, right? Because what ends up happening is everybody knows that you're a rookie or you're young. And I mean, they can tell that by the way you communicate. They can certainly tell it by the way you write an offer. And so I think if you just bring it up, and again, we've been talking about authenticity and being vulnerable the whole time through. People already know that anyways. And so they appreciate it that you're not trying to act like some tough guy.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So it's great.
Yeah.
So the other thing that I really enjoy just thinking about it in your advice is that when you're young, you have so much time. You don't realize just how much time you have. And we all have the same amount of hours in a day, but when you're young and you're not married, you don't have kids, you're not operating a brokerage, like you can volunteer for all this stuff. And
Yeah.
so you can give back a lot, and that really ends up accelerating your career. So I think that's the other thing that I heard in that
Mhm.
advice that you
It's
gave.
huge. It's huge. Yeah. I was a part of our Young Professionals Network here. I'm a really big, I don't know the word, but I sit on, the Women's Council of Realtors, local, state, and national board. That's been huge for my career. So just the people that I've met, the advice that I've gotten, the organizational skills, leadership skills, you can't learn that anywhere else than really saying, I want to be involved in that and stepping up to it.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, I get a gift for all of my guests, and this is my absolute favorite book.
Okay.
I hope you haven't read it, but I'm going to give you a copy of Dave Ramsey's Entree Leadership.
I haven't. That would be
You
awesome.
have it?
No, I have not read it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Perfect. This is my favorite. It is over 20 years of practical wisdom about how Dave started his company. It talks about hiring and firing and marketing and leading people and creating vision and casting that vision. And it's a phenomenal read. So I'll send that to you.
Thank you.
Ashley Dietz Schaefer, the world is a better place for having you here to communicate with us. I really sincerely appreciate your time. This has been amazing.
Course.
And I'm so excited to see you in a few weeks.
I can't wait. Yeah, Kyle, it's an honor to have the ability to sit and chat with you. And I know that, lots of people would want to sit in my seat right now. So I'm so honored to have this opportunity. So thank you.
Oh, go on.
All right.
Well, for Ashley Dietz Schaefer, I'm your host, Kyle Malnati. This has been the Calibrate Real Estate Podcast, which is designed to educate, encourage, and empower young leaders, people that want to get it right, but want to keep growing. And so, as I love to say, we will see you around the neighborhood. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.